Hi everyone, this is part 2. So we're going to now talk about how to prioritize our learning in small groups. And I had asked you before we started to watch this video of Maggie Roberts and how she created simple, engaging, and effective digital lessons. She really focused on what would happen when we made digital lessons. But one of the things that I really wanted us to notice is the way that the teacher who's modeling in the video decided to structure her lesson. So today, the link is right here in this pink box. So if you haven't watched it, you can do so. And we're going to talk in our breakout sessions and then post some thinking to our Jamboard. So our Jamboard kind of collected ideas that were people's main takeaways. So we have anything from her language that says in her lesson, in her mini lesson, she's going to tell it, she's going to teach it, and they're going to try it. And that they are going to have this small, narrowed down focus. So we have a lot of these that say something about keeping it short and very intentional or having that narrow focus. So we can look through these and see what other people were taking away from this video as well. And as we do get started for the rest of this, I want to let you know that we're going to talk about making the most of our time, whether that's virtual or in person, by thinking about a flipped lesson, sort of, narrowing our focus and honing in on that skill or strategy. And then in our third part, we're going to talk about the small group lessons, the how, the when, the how often, and talk about some tips and tricks. So let's get started. I'm going to walk you through my plans this spring and what we came up with. So first of all, my teaching partner and I, Nancy Schwander, we kind of had to think about, we don't have a lot of time with our students, whether we are remote and we're just seeing them through a Meet or a Zoom, or whether we are in person and we just don't have that blended model doesn't allow us to have tons of time with them. We had to prioritize that time. What is the most important thing that I need to use that time for? So when we look at this slide, you can see this is kind of a general schedule for me for a generic reading group that I might do for like a tier 2 student. So not my most intensive, but just my second level, like tier reading group. So we can see that I kind of laid out what I normally would do Monday through Friday. And then we had to really think, which of these things do they not need me for, right? And I started out by thinking about what parts of my lessons each week could I video? They don't even need me at all. They can just watch me teach this using the structure that Maggie Roberts shared of tell it, teach it, and try it. What could we do? So we went through and said, okay, these concepts I can do in a video. That's pretty easy. Then we thought about what parts do they not need me to sit here and watch them do, right? What parts are independent and they could do it on their own, and then I could provide the feedback for that task when we're together. And so we went through and said, these are all things, my word work practice, my comprehension with a written response, some games. Could I send this or assign this for them to do on their own? And then from there, I had really the important stuff, the stuff they need me for. I need to be with them to make sure that they understand the word work concept. I need to be with them to do the dictation so I can immediately give that feedback and correct anything that's wrong. I need to be with them when we first read a story because I need to do my picture walk. I need to make sure they understand certain vocabularies and they know the focus of our reading. So those are the things that they need me for. Those are the things I'm going to do in small group. So from here, I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. I want you to think about the way that you teach. I want you to think about what parts of your week or your lessons could be videoed. What parts of yours work could be done by themselves, like in the other half of the day or when they're not with you? And what parts do they really need you for? I'm going to ask you to make a 3-column chart on whatever paper you're using. In the first column, we're going to say what could be videoed, right? What parts of our lesson or learning they could watch prior to, or they could revisit later if they don't understand. What parts in the middle column, we're going to say what parts could be independent practice. What kind of learning experiences can they do by themselves? And then I could give the follow-up. And then the final column is going to be what part of our teaching do the students need guided through, or do they need me to directly teach them? And that could be whole group or small group, but what parts do they definitely need you for? So you can pause now and go ahead and write these things out. When we look at my plan, you're going to notice that I have sections for each 3, and I'm just going to show you how that ended up working in the spring. So in the spring, we had some mini lessons, and what I did is I took the skill of inferring. So we had these mini lessons to teach how to infer, and so you can play it. It's right in the bit.ly link, and you're going to see that I use my anchor charts. Oops, where's my anchor charts? There's my anchor charts. We used a poem to ponder, When Riddles Come Rumbling, Poems to Ponder book. So we used a poem, which was a short text. This was our second week of inferring. And then I walked them through. I read this poem with them. We highlighted some key words or vocabulary to make our inference. And then I asked them to write an inferring statement. After they watched this video, they had a seesaw activity, which is our middle thing here, for them to practice. It's another poem. It's exactly the same as what I asked them to do. They're going to highlight the words or key clues that tell them what this poem is about. And then they're going to write their inferring statement at the bottom using the prompts that I gave them. I infer it's a blah, blah, blah because blah, blah, blah. So having that evidence using those keywords that we highlighted to support our thinking. And then once we got to small group, our small group lesson looks like the same anchor charts that I showed in the video. Our poem, we were able to highlight the key words and then think about them and then write our inference statement. The same thing that I had them do, I'm now doing with them again, only I'm making sure they understand. In the book, they give you the answer, but with the illustration. So then I also show them how to get the answer. And also in my small group time, it was really important to me to have time to practice that word work concept. So here, we highlighted hunk and chunks and read words, and I could have one kid read it. I could have them all. It was also important for me to be a part of the dictation. So I could give a word and dictate it, and then we could stretch it and write it together. And then the last part is I had them write their own sentence and show it to me via the screen using these words. So this is how we ended up structuring those 3 parts of our lesson. The next video is going to have us continue on with planning then the structure of our small group.